Yes.
Yep.
Good deal. We are now joined by Denny Hamlin, who will be driving the number 11 FedEx Small Business Grant Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing this weekend at Homestead-Miami Speedway. And Denny, you unveiled the paint scheme this morning on Instagram. I'm going to give everybody a look about that paint scheme. Can you tell us what this paint scheme is about this weekend and what it means?
Yeah, this is great. A great promotion FedEx is doing for small businesses. They're actually they have 12 grants for $50,000 each that you can register for. I believe up until March 9th at FedEx.com/grant contest. And so you see access track right there on the left rear. This is really cool. Kelly Twitchell, who is the owner of Access Track, was one of our winners last year. So great to have her on the car, and it's great that FedEx is giving back to small businesses.
Fantastic. Well, we've got a lot of questions for you this morning, Denny. We're going to go right into them. And our first question is going to come from Jenna Fryer. Go ahead with the question, Jenna.
Hey, Denny, I got two different questions. Yesterday, the conversation started about young drivers. You seem to take that personally. I'm wondering if it was specifically because you were brought into it or because young guys win a race and all of a sudden everybody starts, oh, the young guys, they're coming.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it, coming from fans because they're not prefaced to information that, analysts or media are. So my thing was just like, have you not seen one article have you watched one race in the last 2 years? Have you seen any articles about like re-signing? Like, I don't know. It just dumbfounds me, but it also is not surprising.
So it's more about that you were listed as somebody that should.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'm not sure who I can equate it to in another sports world, but essentially someone else that's at the top of their game, and they're like, "Oh, this guy scored 30 off the bench. He's coming for your starting position." Okay.
My second question is, I went back and I read some 2010 articles when you had been fined for tweets and you said you were going to cut back on your tweets. And here we are 11 years later and you're back. You're kind of prolific. You're a little bit provocative. Have you gotten more comfortable with it? Fans seem to be pleased with this side of you. Where's your mind at with your tweeting?
Well, I mean, obviously, since I am at the end of my career, why care at this point? Owning the race team doesn't hurt either.
All right. Thanks, Denny.
Thanks. I'm joking, by the way.
I know.
Good deal. Our next question is going to come from Bob Pockers. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Denny, this is the first race at Homestead with the choose rule. Does it mean more or less at Homestead considering there's multiple lanes?
It will mean a little less at Homestead, but still be significant. Honestly, I'd forgotten that we had it, up until, talking about the racetrack this week. So, yeah, I mean, I think that certainly it's a great addition to the strategic part of, making decisions on, what you're going to do in these races. So I like that element. It's fun. And certainly, but it won't be, I mean, it'll be important on the last restart if we have a green, white checkered, but I think beyond that, outside 5 laps to go, it won't be too much of a detriment either way.
And I want to ask, in your role as an owner, did the 2311 join the RTA, and if so or if not, why?
Yes, we are. For very simple reasons.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Claire B. Lang. Go ahead with the question, Claire.
Thank you. Denny, I saw your tweet to Chip Ganassi as well. And why did you tweet to Chip Ganassi that he was a legend? And he said, you're a legend too, Denny Hamlin. I mean, it was really enjoyable. I got a kick out of it, but it left me wondering, what the hell is that all about?
Claire, this is inside baseball. I'm sorry, I cannot go further than that.
Well, let me just say that I enjoy the side of Denny Hamlin that has a sense of humor. And I go way back to when you were burnt out at the end of the season at the table. I don't know, maybe was a really bad morning, and it was like Champions Week or something. And I look at you now and you're laughing and you're like, oh, that was a joke. Is that the side of Denny Hamlin, that you compete better when you can be that guy who jokes around and has a sense of humor? And you've reached a part in your career where, okay, people don't get it, they don't get it, but it's really funny, and it seems like you're having a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that generally, I think NASCAR drivers get kind of lulled into, people believing that everyone's vanilla, everyone's boring and everything else. But also you got to realize that, there's big companies like FedEx that you have to represent, and you have to do it in a professional way. And certainly I try my best to do that, but also, you can be yourself as well. And I think certainly, NASCAR's been, less, strict on, censoring. I think that's, maybe helped a little bit, but certainly, I mean, it just kind of depends. I mean, in your personal life, I think you can show whatever personality you want to. And I just think that, I haven't changed or anything like that. It's just, I always said that, you'd get the good stuff after my career is over, but I guess I'm gonna start now.
Well, we're enjoying it. Thanks a lot. Good luck this weekend.
All right, thanks.
Our next question is going to come from Jeff Gluck. Go ahead with the question, Jeff.
Denny, since you're good at predictions and things like that, if you had to guess, is this going to be the kind of race this week where, first, intermediate oval, and so it's just going to be the big teams dominate and unload fast? Or because it's so early in the season, could we see some more parity with, a couple of those medium tier teams competing with the big guys?
I think it'll be more, status quo on, where we were last year. Now that doesn't mean me and Kevin will, since it's a mile and a half, we're going to dominate. But I think that certainly, the mid-tier teams, this is where, so many, where the resources that they don't have will come into factor a little bit more. So, I don't know that I would call the 20 car mid-tier. And then I don't know that I'd call 34, a shock, because these, we are at a super speedway. So I think the winners' names in the list is, like, oh, wow, where's our superstars? But, we're about to get in the chunk of the season where you're going to start to see some of your normal winners in the bracket.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is going to come from Dustin Long. Go ahead with the question, Dustin.
Thank you. Hey, Denny, a driver mentioned to me this week that when they look at the data, that your data is so much different than just about every other driver's in terms of throttle and what you do. They said it's very unique at most of the tracks. And I'm curious if your data, your driving style is so much different from everybody else. When you look at driver data, what are you getting out of it? Or is it still something to try, or is it a way to kind of attack your opponents?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that my data can be replicated. Honestly, I think that you can try, but you're probably going to be wasting your time. It's just something that I've always done. It's probably more of a habit more than it is, conscious decision to drive that way. But what I get out of it is I recognize, what I can analyze from other drivers. Even though I'm not driving the same way, there's certain things that I can identify that does help me, and I apply it to my style. So there are things, I mean, I don't really want to give all that stuff away information wise, but certainly I can use the data. I think it's harder for people to read my data.
And since everybody can look at the other competitors can look at your data, they can see what you're doing. For somebody like myself that doesn't see it, that can't relate, can you give me a sense of what is so different, or a little bit of a sense of what's different with what you do or how you attack things?
Just my throttle application is dramatically different than everyone else's.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question will come from Alan Cavana. Go ahead with the question, Alan.
Hey, Denny, you were talking about the 20 before. Now that he's got the win, I think he's starting up front. Someone said it's his best starting position ever. It seems like new territory for a young driver. And I was just wondering, do you remember that as a young driver when you became amongst and started competing against the top people in the sport? What was that like, and what is that like for a young driver?
Well, I mean, I'm sure this is a huge confidence boost. I mean, I know that it was for me in '06. I mean, started in the shootout, right? My rookie season, winning the very first race. It was like, okay, I belong here. And I think Christopher, everyone else knows, his talent level. And I think he showed even flashes last year. Most of the time when you really dive into the stats and whatnot, he was kind of a middle tier JGR car most weekends. Like he was never really the worst that much. So I think that we knew that he obviously had a bunch of talent. But yeah, I bet this has given him a ton of confidence, and now he can race freely. Doesn't have to worry about playoff spots, or racing for points, or anything like that at this point. So he's liable to be probably even more dangerous at this point going forward.
What's that education like when you're suddenly restarting next to Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin and racing them for the lead rather than trying to get 15th, 18th?
Mm-hmm. It's different. It is inside that top 10. It is different. You really have to understand those guys and each one of them's driving style to understand how to predict whether you're going to set up a pass or they're trying to pass you. You understand where they're going to make their move because you know how historically they've driven in the past. So that's something he will learn as well, is kind of, each characteristic of these top 10 guys and what to expect. And that's just going to make him better.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is going to come from Michelle Martinelli. Go ahead with the question, Michelle.
Denny, so far, 2 tracks in 2 races that aren't really representative of the rest of the schedule. But so far, how do you evaluate your performance and that of the 23 team? And have you offered any advice to that new team or Bubba specifically going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that our team, our 11 FedEx team, has been very, very good the first couple races. I think that even though my finish was a little worse than the Daytona road course last year, I think we were second, third to this time. I thought overall our performance was closer to the front. So I'm pretty happy about that. Speed weeks, we obviously led the most laps, won both stages. We won 3 out of 4 stages so far this year. So I'm pretty happy with where we are on the pole this weekend because of our performance last weekend. So all's good there. Happy with that. 23 teams, still just a learning progress. I mean, learning in progress. I believe that, I had the most painful day yesterday. I'm listening to the 23 teams debrief in my ears while I'm at the dentist getting my teeth cleaned. It might have been the most painful hour of possibly my life, but it was a learning process. I mean, I think that they know what their weaknesses is. They got to go work on it, and but they're going to get better. And I chip in wherever I can. I try to do the best I can to be a great teammate to them, just like the other teammates at JGR. And I dedicate a certain amount of time per week to helping out that race team and helping them get better.
Painful because of the challenges that might have been discussed in the conversation, or painful because of the teeth cleaning?
Both, both of them. But I think that, Bubba recognizes he's got a very fast car. I mean, all the JGR cars were up front this past weekend. It's just, he knows he's got a lot of work to do on himself on the road courses. So I think he's very much looking forward to going to Homestead this weekend and seeing where he stacks up on the 1.5 miles.
Good deal. Our final question will come from Lee Spencer. Go ahead with the question, Lee.
So much. And Denny, thank you for joining us. Back to the discussion about the kids and all, Toyota has such a strong pipeline. They're bringing them in. Joe and Dave Wilson both said that you would like to expand in the future. Do you have a set time when you might be looking at that, or do you want to give it a year or two just to get your legs?
Well, I mean, I'd like to expand as quick as possible. I mean, I think the quicker we expand, the more resources we will have as a race team to get better. The better people we can hire. It's all of everything gets better the more information that you can throw into the pot. So, when it makes sense for us is when it financially makes sense for us. I mean, it's about getting a sponsor and a driver and a crew chief first. Those 3 things have all got to line up. and then you got to try to find a charter. So it's, there's a lot of obstacles that are in the way of it happening, but certainly we feel like we're active in the space, and we're trying our best to be the team that Toyota feels like they can, they have a place for their young guys to go, or maybe we go after an established veteran who's got a great resume.
Is Xfinity, ultimately going to be part of that plan as well? Because, Kyle's kind of holding the lion's share of the truck Thor Sport. They kind of have their veterans, but it really seems to be a need for Xfinity to get these guys prepared to go to Cup inevitably.
Yeah, but ultimately, this is all around sponsorship. I mean, it costs a tremendous amount of money to put these cars on the racetrack. And listen, I wish the model were the teams could just hire whoever they wanted, and they didn't have to worry about getting a big sponsor to just break even, or finding a driver that brought money. But that's the climate that we live in, and so unfortunately for us, we have to make sure you have the check writer first, and then you go out and get your talent. So and it's just a weird process and how it all works, but certainly we're trying to do it as quick as we can.
And did you learn anything from watching the 95 and the 78 so that doesn't become your path as well?
Well, I think it was difficult. Those two were very different situations. The 78 had sponsorship, so they were able to take what JGR had, apply more resources to it because they had money to do it through sponsorship, and they made it better. They took that product and they made it better. The 95, really the COVID and everything really put a damper on their sponsorship efforts. So I think they were probably strapped for money at times. And so they couldn't go out and hire more people to make those cars even better and faster. And I think that really shows in performance. I don't think it was from a lack of effort by any means. I just think that there was a lot of unfortunate circumstances that hit the 95 that didn't hit the 78 until a certain time. And when Barney was done, I think his son looked at the business model and was like, I ain't taking this. I'm not taking this debt on. You can go have it. And the team shut down.
Appreciate your time.
Yep.
Deal. Well, Denny, really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and good luck this weekend at Homestead-Miami Speedway.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care. Kurt Busch will be joining us here momentarily, so stand by.